children as well, who we work with. Yes, there is an absolute grade in schools, right? As much as we want to stay away from calling it as a failure, there is an absolute grade in school and called F. It's there. And that is something that we ask them to acknowledge. But failure is not the last step. It's not something, it's not a binary. It's not like you either fail or you succeed. It's just a setback that is part of the growth process. It's a situation from which you can learn. That's how we see that too. And Virginia, do you see any difference in your students after the pandemic? Like, do you see how they, in terms of behavior as well as in terms of academics, what do you see there?
Coming back from distance learning, I think students are more tired. I think their mental health is suffering. And I think they've internalized a lot of this, especially with the skill set. They had to learn a whole skill set for distance learning. And a lot of that didn't carry over, right? Now they have to adjust to a new normal when they're in the classroom. But when I work with students with revision and I talk to them about multiple opportunities, I feel that students feel a little more safer taking a risk, but that takes time, right? In the beginning, students are afraid to take risks. They're afraid of maybe trusting or making themselves or embarrassing themselves in front of others. So it takes a lot of work to build those skills for students to trust you and trust making some of those mistakes and learning from them. And so I feel that in the beginning, maybe students are a little more hesitant. They're really stressed out. They feel a lot of pressure. But towards the end of the school year, I feel like students have felt comfortable and safe, and especially when they're getting feedback to learn and grow from.
Dan, what are your thoughts, Dan? What do you notice in these classrooms?
Well, when it comes to failure, as you know, I teach physics in addition to math, and when I talk to my students when they don't do well on a test or something like that, in physics, the best things that we learn in physics come from failed experiments. Not every one of them, but many of them do. So what happens is run an experiment with an expected outcome. When we don't get that outcome, then we go back and scratch our heads and say, wow, we thought we knew what we were doing. We thought we knew what was going on, but it doesn't. So when I'm working with students who, just on Friday, I was working with a student who was trying to add fractions. And of course, we know that a fraction, you have to have a common denominator in order to do that. So we looked at what he was doing right, and then looked and said, okay, now this is where you need improvement. And suddenly the student was able to say, oh, okay, so this is what I need to work on. This part I know already. This is what I need to work on. And then doing that in a one-on-one helps quite a bit rather than trying to do something in front of the whole class, as was mentioned earlier, because students are a little reluctant to do that. That's one of the things that's come out of this distance learning is so much time spent just by themselves that now taking that student, put them in a large environment of 30 plus students, they may not feel as comfortable and they may shut down a little bit more.